Welcome, everyone, to the Squid and Ultimate Elite Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Elite fan. Joining me, as always, my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe. Squid, event number 2. The wacky, mystifying, and unusual continues in the playoffs.
It certainly does, Mike. And if somebody would have predicted that the Montreal Canadiens would be in the Stanley Cup Finals, everybody would have put them in a loony place or something because they would have thought they were crazy. But you know what? Yeah, I give them a lot of credit because I think they've played extremely well. They've kind of stuck to their game plan of because they know they can't outscore other teams that they've played in the playoffs, but they've done a real good job of shutting their offense down and then taking advantage of turnovers and stuff like that. And, give them a lot of credit. They got to where they are, and who knows, it might not be over yet.
Well, that's true. But before we get in that, we do want to send out our best to the Islanders who put on a big fight. And I just wanted to have you indulge me. We'll just go off a little bit here because we're going to talk a little bit about John Brophy today, also along with what could be upcoming in the playoffs. But indulge me in this piece of this mystifying comparison, more like drivel coming from me. I uncovered a few days ago. I'm actually reading John Brophy's book right now. So there's some interesting things going there. So going back to Game 6 on Long Island, if you remember, the Islanders win in overtime. The fans celebrating with their team start throwing things on the ice, full beer cans. They're throwing cans of beers on the ice. And this has actually even stunned the announcers who are saying, like, what are these guys doing? And a couple players ducked and almost got hit. They try to justify it by saying that the TV announcers, this bizarre actions are by the fans that suggest this could be the last game ever played at Nassau Coliseum. Because if they lost, then they're moving to the new rink next year. So I'm reading Brophy's book, as I mentioned, and his terrorizing me in the Eastern Hockey League, and they played a title game at home in 1965. Their home team, Long Island Ducks, and they're playing at the Long Island Arena. They clinched the title game, and all of a sudden in celebration, the fans start a barrage of beer cans hit the ice. And I'm reading this, I'm like, this just happened the other night. And this is what, like 56 years ago, and it's the same thing. Yeah. So the one thing, the irony of all this, I guess you can say, is that it may have been the last game in both rinks, but I'll tell you what, you got to love those Long Islander fans. They stay with tradition. Now, you, in your years playing, any crazy things happen in that rink?
Nothing like that. But I do remember we stayed at the Marriott, which was kind of right in the
Yeah.
You had to walk across the parking lot to get to the Nassau Coliseum. And, the fans were out barbecuing and partying and everything before the game. And, it was a tough walk because you had to go right through all the fans. And they'd be screaming and yelling at you and calling you names and you name it. And they were ruthless. Some of the things they would say to you were pretty bad. But I do remember one time in Chicago, thinking of throwing things on the ice, they gave out these postcards of all the players, pitchers, and the coaching staff and everything. So we were losing one game that particular night. And, of course, who's the first pitcher on the thing, and they were wrapped in cellophane, was Mike Keenan. So we're losing, and the other team scores a goal. We'll go down 2 or 3 goals. And then all of a sudden, about 8,000 of these come flying out onto the ice. And everybody's kind of ducking and getting out of the way. Then they score another goal. Then the rest of them come on the ice. And then from the top deck comes a liquor bottle and smashes on the ice. And I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, what if that had hit someone in the head? That would have done some damage. So that was kind of similar to what happened in Long Island, but it was during the game. It wasn't even after the game. And it was pretty scary, actually.
Jeez. Well, what I wanted to touch on going through the book was John Brophy. Now, what a character, a lovable guy off the ice and away from the rink, but on the ice, like this guy, Jekyll Hyde, this guy was just Looney Tunes at the rink and the stuff that he would do. So the book, by the way, is a recommend read. It covers all of this. Now, Squid, going to get you to share a couple stories on Brophy in a second here, but I'll start with this one I just read. John was involved, as we all know, very tough guy, back in the 50s and 60s, stick swinging brawls were quite the norm, and they happened quite a bit. And these guys were in no buckets in those days either. So when you got hit, and some real serious injuries would take place. So he was in numerous confrontations with stick swinging. So he starts coaching, and one of his young kids comes up to him, and the battles were still going on, and one of the players suggested he go and talk to Brophy on how to defend himself with a stick. So he went up to Brophy after practice and said, I'd like you to show me how I can defend myself better using my stick and with guys. And Brophy said, you sure you really want to do that? And the kid said, yeah, I really want you to show me. Well, all right, kid, here's what I want you to do. Drop your sticks and gloves in front of me. Throws the stick and gloves down. Brophy turns around, whacks him over the head with his stick. And he turns to him, he's skating away. He goes, number one rule, never drop your stick and gloves first. And skates away laughing. The kid's standing there bleeding.
I'll be honest with you, Mike, that doesn't surprise me one bit. It really doesn't, because that's the way Brophy was. I mean, that was the way he played, and that was kind of the way he taught people how to defend themselves and that sort of thing. And, it's not the first time. I remember Val James, he calls him up from St. Catharines, and one game our defense had no hits in the game or something, or one hit in the game, and so he blows a whistle at the end of practice and calls Val down, and calls all the defensemen down, and he says, okay, my no-hit defenseman, I'm going to show you how a 65-year-old can get someone out of the front of the net. And he said, Val, come here. Val standing in front of him, cross-checks him right in the back. Val doesn't go down. Cross-checks him again. Doesn't go down. Whacks him in the back of the leg as hard as he possibly can. Kind of goes a little bit down, but at the same time, then he cross-checks him, and finally he goes down. Bro puts his skate on top of Val's back and looks at his defense and goes, that's how you get a guy out of the front of the net. And our defensemen are looking at him like, really? Like, you want us to do that?
Well, speaking of which, I'm going to ambush you a bit here, but you're in the book too for a couple of things with Brophy on a couple of counts. Number one in Birmingham, but more when you were at the Leafs. You knew him a little bit better, so maybe you thought you'd get away with this, but I don't know if you remember this incident in Calgary. Apparently, as the story goes, and you can verify this or not, you bought an old man's mask with a white wig, wore it into the rink, into the dressing room for the boys, being the good captain that you were, and said you were John Brophy's brother. Where's the coach? So the boys got a big kick out of this, and we're all laughing. And apparently the mask and everything got put on a pylon out on the ice. And Brophy went on. I wasn't too happy about that, and actually just destroyed the thing to smithereens. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of pieces left on that thing when he was done with it. That's for goddamn sure.
Did he know you did it?
I mean, you know what? You have to do things like that to loosen things up. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Brophy afterwards was fine with it. He was in the room. He was chuckling, laughing about it because he thought it was pretty funny. At the time, it wasn't funny because we weren't winning a whole lot. So obviously, he was pretty upset about it. But afterwards, when everything was all over and he had destroyed the mask, literally destroyed it into little pieces, then he was fine. He was kind of chuckling about it and said, well, that was pretty funny. I got to admit, and everything. And I said, well, it was just kind of trying to loosen up the mood in the room and kind of get everybody loosey-goosey ready for the hockey game. And, so he didn't have a problem with it after that.
Well, we'll certainly come up with a few more as we go along with shows, but we're an hour and a bit away from the first game in the Stanley Cup final. The number one thing everyone has learned these playoffs is not to underestimate Montreal, which you said at the opening of this segment. Not having said that, what's your thoughts on this series? On paper, for the fourth series in a row, it appears to be all one-sided in Tampa's favor in this instance.
Well, I can tell you one thing is Montreal is going to have to stay out of the penalty box if they're going to have any chance of winning this series whatsoever, because Tampa's power play is unbelievable. I think they're running at about 40% in the playoffs so far. And if your power play is running at 40%, the other team cannot afford to take penalties. So let's see how Montreal plays. I mean, they're going to have to play the same way if they're going to beat Tampa. There's no question, because they don't have the offense to go up against Tampa and play a run and gun game. They got to play the same way as they played against the Leafs, Winnipeg, and Vegas, and that is try and shut down their top offensive guys and then prey on turnovers and that sort of thing. I mean, put it this way, I don't give Montreal much of a chance to win this series, but then again, I didn't give them much of a chance to win any of the other series, and they did. So anything can happen. If they stay out of the box, I think they're going to make this a series. And I don't know whether they're going to win or not, but if they stay out of the box, they're certainly going to make it a good series, and they probably go, 6, maybe even 7 games.
Well, just for your edification here on that, but they have not allowed a power play goal since the Toronto series. So that'll give you an idea how good they've been on the power play kill, Montreal. But they face nothing like this. And as a matter of fact, name me a Montreal forward name one, never mind 2 forwards that could crack Tampa's top 6, and outside of Weber, who would make their top 4 in defense. And the goalies, you can toss a coin on them being equal. So once again, this looks like a pretty unbalanced matchup, but you know what? Anything can go. And you got Kucherov hurting a little bit.
The big thing on the power play is that they haven't faced a power play with these many weapons.
No.
They play Toronto. Okay, you shut down Matthews, you take him away, you kind of take Marner away a little bit, and then nothing happens. But Tampa has too many weapons. They have so many guys that they can put on the ice on both power play units, not just one, but both.
Absolutely.
That can make things happen. So, I mean, that's going to be the big thing is, can they kill those penalties if they do take them, or do they stay out of the box?
Well, they've been pretty lucky with the hockey gods looking after them. The absence of Tavares, Foligno, and Muzzin by the end, Sheffley and Stastny in the second series. The Knights lost their first number 1 center, Chandler Stevenson. Kucherov, as just mentioned a second ago, could be a bit on the lam also. So, who knows? You're going to have to, see how they play. But that aggressive play that they've been exerting so far throughout the playoffs, as you said, they've got to stay out of the box. Well, Squid, we're going to get a little better feel after tonight's game for Wednesday. We'll also touch a little bit more on the upcoming free agents that are available. I want to let's shout out one thing for us, by the way. We got some allocates from some people who said that, particularly some hockey guys, we picked out Jamie Elysiak and Alex Martinez as a couple of great targets for the Maple Leafs. Now, I mentioned we'd get these 2 cheap. They'd be great acquisitions. Well, as I said, a couple of these hockey people said that, you know what? They pointed out, probably it's going to be me who gets the shot here. We're commended on a great eye for talent, but out to lunch on reality. Lysiak is probably going to be on everyone's list, starting with a 5 in front of it, and Martinez be the same. No chance they're coming to Toronto.
Not at that price. There's no question that they're not coming here if it's got a 5 in front of it. If it's a 1, maybe a 2 with a bunch of zeros, then maybe that happens. But not Alexiak, but Martinez. If you give him, if he would take $2 million, then more than likely you could probably make that work. But
I'm told he's going to get at least 5.
But nothing over $2 million. Then forget it. It's not going to happen.
So life as a GM has been very short. It lasted 15 minutes the last show. So
yeah.
On that note, we can't give up the hope, though. And remember, and here we go again. Here's today's parting shot.
Oh, here we go.
You ready for this one? We can't give up the hope. And remember the words of American writer, I'll butcher her name there, Jodi Picoult. Extraordinary things are always hiding in places people never think to look. With KHL, Swedish Elite League, Czech Elite League, who knows? Anyone, everyone?
Well, they have to really, really search far and wide if they're going to find those things. So.
The Market Men's Beer League, who knows? Guys, thanks for listening. Tune in again on Wednesday, same time, same place. Everybody enjoy the game. We'll talk to you guys Wednesday night.